In this video, we're going to talk about a simple yet powerful model to help you determine the value of a customer. And valuing your customers is critical no matter what business you're in. For example, if you find the value of a customer in the cell phone business is $300 and it costs you $500 to get a customer, you're going to go out of business. Okay, so what our model is sort of based on a really nice book, Managing Customers as Investments by Gupta and Lehman. Our file is going to be CUSTOMERVALUE.xlsx. And so the two main inputs to determine the value of a customer, okay, well actually there's three. So the first input is profit per year from the customer. So maybe a cell phone customer generates $100 of profit per year. Okay. And what we're going to do is get a multiplier. Suppose we get a multiplier of 4. And then the value of a customer would be the multiplier. We'll explain how that multiplier comes about in a minute. Times the profit per year. Now, of course, profit per year can change over time, but we'll just assume it's constant. Okay. And so in this case, if the multiplier were 4, we get a value of $400 for the customer. And then we're going to use a data table once we set up our model to show how our two inputs, retention rate and discount rate, influence the multiplier, which determines the value of a customer. And we'll show you how you can graph the results in the data table to really make them more understandable, because as the Chinese say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. Okay, so what are the two inputs to customer value? One is the discount rate, the rate at which you discount profit for your customers. So a discount rate of 10%, as we know, means $1 now, $1 a year from now is worth 1 over 1.1 now. $1 2 years from now is worth 1 over 1.1 squared. Okay, the other driver, which is much more important, is retention rate. So like a retention rate of 0.8 means at the end of the period, let's say year, we have 80% of the customers we started with. Okay, and then the churn rate you may have heard of is 1 minus the retention rate. So we'd have a 20% churn rate. We're losing 20% of our customers. Okay, so how do we find this multiplier? Well, we start, let's say, with one customer in period 1. And if the retention rate is 0.8, then in the next year we'd have 80% of that one customer. Then we'd have 80% of that 80%. So you just take the number of customers you have, which is a fraction here, times the retention rate. And after a while, you'd have very few of the customers that you started with. The one customer shrinks. Then you take the discount factor, which is 1 divided by the discount rate. You have to decide if you're getting the money at the end of the year, the middle of the year, or the beginning of the year. So for instance, if I do, and I'll show you how I create this drop-down box in a minute, but if you say beginning of the year, okay, then basically you have that one customer and you don't discount in the first year. Then the next year you have 1 times 0.8. You have 0.8 customers. You multiply it by 1 divided by 1.1. Now the end of the year, I'm not going to worry too much about the middle of the year. Okay, the end of the year would mean that one customer, okay, basically you're getting the money from him the end of the period, so you get 1 divided by 1.1 times that customer. Then you get 1 divided by 1.1 squared, and you have 0.8 customers. And if you multiply the number of customers each period times the discount factor, assuming you got $1 each year from each customer, that would give you the multiplier. And I ran this out 30 years. Well, I ran it out 100 and how many years? I ran it out. It's never going to go this much, but I ran 360 periods, because that could be months. So if you have months, that's 30 years. And if you want to multiply column B times column C, cell by cell, there's a function, sum product. Sum product will take everything in a row or column times another row or column. And so I would take sum product there, then put a comma, and take sum product there. That's basically how I get to multiply. Okay, so we'll do an example of this in a second before we do the sensitivity analysis. Okay, so let's suppose we have an 80% retention rate. Let's suppose we have a 90% retention rate, which is really good. We lose 1 out of 10 customers every year. We discount at 10% a year. Okay, wow, the multiplier comes out to be exactly 5, which is cool. Okay, so 90% retention, 10% discount rate, $100 profit per year. So the long-term customer value, as they call it, long-term customer value, would be that multiplier times 100. And that would be $500. Okay, now we want to do a sensitivity analysis on our 2 inputs. So I have it right here, but I'm going to do it from scratch here. In other words, we want to vary the retention rate from 60%, 70%, 80% to 90%, and the discount rate from 10 to 16% to see which is more important, the discount rate or retention rate to customer values. And it's clearly the retention rate. So our output cell will be the multiplier. And then we'll do a two-way data table. So we'll go data, what if analysis, data table. The row input cell, the numbers in the first row are discount rates. The numbers in the first column are retention rates. We now have a two-way data table. I have to hit F9 to make things change, and there we go. And so you can see some amazing things here. We'll do this graphically in a minute. But if you, suppose you discount at 10% a year, which is the typical discount rate. If you go from a 60% retention rate to a 90% retention rate, the value of a customer, the multiplier goes from 2 to 5, which is more than double. So this is a really good argument for spending your money on marketing. I mean, the value of your company is really the value of your customers. Okay. And again, my marketing analytics book has a lot more on customer value, if you're interested. John Wiley is the publisher. Okay. But we can see as we increase the discount rate, the multiplier goes down because future cash flows are worth less, but it doesn't go down very quickly. Now, let's suppose we want to show this in a graph. So how do you show stuff in a data table in a graph? Well, I would copy it. I do Control-C, right-click, and then paste special values. And then you want to delete the upper left-hand corner for the graph to come out right. And so now I can do a line graph. So now if I select this stuff and I do insert and I do a line chart, and this should be fine. Okay, so let's move this one down here, take a look at this. And we could flip the axis if we want in a minute. So this is customer value sensitivity, let's say. Okay, so on the x-axis, we've got the discount rate, and the y, and each curve is for a different retention rate. So you can see they're very far apart. When you have a 90% retention rate, the multiplier is really high, okay? And 60, 70, and 80, it's lower. But there's a huge increase going from an 80% retention rate to 90% retention rate for the multiplier, even as you vary the discount rate. Notice these curves are pretty flat. Increasing the discount rate doesn't have much effect, okay, on what's going on. Now let me make a copy of this chart. Right-click, copy, right-click, paste. Okay, now I can switch the rows and columns around if I want to. So in other words, if I go in this chart, okay, I think I go, what is it, design, switch rows and columns. Okay, so now I see on the x-axis varying the retention rate, and the different curves are for different discount factors. Notice how close these curves are. The discount rate changing doesn't really affect the multiplier much, but you can see each of these curves gets steeper as you move to the right, indicating if you increase that retention rate, like 80 to 81% is much more important than going from 70 to 71%. And that's because if you look at the flip side, the churn. If you go from 80% retention to 81% retention, you're reducing the churn from 20% to 19%. Okay, and that's much more, and reducing churn is really the key rather than increasing retention. Okay, but this really is a very important practical example you can use in your business. So how did I get the drop-down box to show beginning, end, and middle? Okay, this uses data validation, which is something we'll cover in chapter 40. Okay, but if I want to create a drop-down box that says end, beginning, and middle, all I have to do is go to a cell, go data, data validation, and then I would say settings, there's a list feature. And then all I have to do is select end, beginning, and middle. And if I click OK, there's now a nice drop-down box that lets me choose end, beginning, and middle. And so that really shows you how we can use simple Excel spreadsheet to value a customer, and we can see the sensitivity of customer value to the retention rate as well as the discount rate. And don't forget, if you go from a 70% retention rate to a 90% retention rate here, you're basically doubling the value of a customer according to our little spreadsheet. Okay, and that's really quite amazing. Okay, I mean, that's a real argument for good marketing to reduce churn rate or increase retention rate. And we've also shown you how to use a two-way data table for sensitivity analysis and to graphically display that sensitivity analysis, which will make much more sense in a presentation. Well, that'll conclude our discussion of data tables. Onward and upward to goals.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and there's a free course, a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, and all of these videos are coming from one of three books. So first, this one, which you can see here at the top of the screen, Microsoft's book, which has 355 reviews, and then it's, let's see, 4.6 stars. It's coming from this book as well, his marketing analytics book, which is down here, and you can sort of see 4.5, or his newest book, his analytics stories book, which is here. And with that one, you can see it's 4 point something, or maybe even 5. I don't think it's 5. Yeah, 4.8. And so, yeah, anyways, in the description, there's a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, or you can go to excelwithwayne.com/free, and it'll be there. But again, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just please let us know. Thanks.